I'm a recovering drug addict. For years, I smashed myself to pieces with drugs. Intentionally put myself in dangerous places. On the flip side of that, there's a lot of fear around that. But the opposite to fear is faith. I want to be an inspiration to my children. I want to show them that when you get knocked down, you can get back up again. Coming from a place of addiction and then moving into an environment where people look at you and think, oh, you must be doing some good things.
2024, big year.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to the T2 Fit Talks podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire individuals to achieve their full potential. I am your host, JT, and today is episode 10. Blown by. 10 episodes already. It's episode 10, and we're joined by one of T2 Fit's OG members, and he'll be sharing his journey in health and fitness and giving us an insight into his motivations and experiences in balancing training with a very, very busy lifestyle of family and business. So please join me in welcoming Daniel. Hello, sir.
Hello, JT.
How are you?
I'm all right until you said hello.
I always ask everyone the question, how's the sofa feeling?
Good at the moment.
Good at the moment.
We were mentioning earlier,
Getting
I might
comfy.
get fidgety, but
That's all right.
yeah.
The pillow's there
Get the pillow just.
The pillow's there if you need it. It's
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So I think one of the main things we want to start with is delving into what that busy lifestyle actually looks like, because a number of people listening to this will be like, yeah, my lifestyle is really, really busy as well, or how can he say he's got a busy lifestyle? Like, mine's way busier. Give us an insight into actually what your day-to-day lifestyle actually looks like, because it is pretty manic. It is pretty busy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do get opportunities to stop, but I think a lot of the time, the start of my day and the end of my day is pretty hectic. I mean, today, prime example. Mm-hmm. So up, children to school, here for a small group session, back to work, to the office, back here again. Then I go back to work again. Then I have to pick my daughter up from school and drop her friend home. Then I have to go feed her. Then I'll be taking her to hockey. Then I'll take her back to her mother's. And then I'll be back home for about 9:30. Yeah. So it's pretty constant all the time. And actually, I do like it. I do like it like that. I think when I'm left in my own thoughts for too long, it's probably not particularly healthy for me. So actually being active and being busy it works for me. It does work.
I'm going to point out actually that you did correctly say small group session.
Yes.
And not class. So if Cass is actually listening to this at any point, then he will be super happy about that, for saying session and not class.
Proud of me.
I had to just highlight that and congratulate you on that. So what could what's an early morning for you?
So this week, actually, early morning's only 6:15, 6:30, but I alternate in the work that I do between like an early week and a late week. So next week, I'll be working Sunday evening till about 7, 8 o'clock, and then I'll be back at work at 3:30 in the morning. And then the day, as much as I'd like to shorten it, stays pretty consistent. I'll finish at about 9, 9:30. So yeah, it can be a long old day. You know how that feels.
Yeah, absolutely. What line of work are you actually in that kind of warrants those hours?
So I run 2 wholesale distribution companies with my brother and sister. So being in distribution, wholesale, a lot of the work we do is early morning. So I'll be actively involved with the warehouse and the drivers early doors, just overseeing it, managing it, making sure that they're getting out, any queries I can deal with, etc. So yeah, excuse me. That usually works till about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then that's when I might get an opportunity to pop back home or come to the gym, have breakfast, and then back at it again. So yeah, early starts are 4 a.m.
And it's not just the one business, right? Because you also have a second business there as well.
Yeah, so we've got two companies that we run under the same roof, both wholesale distribution, but have a different kind of customer base. And then I also have a bar at Sandylands Club, and a lot of people know where Sandylands Club is, because it's also the place where T2 Fit, or Addiscombe Fitness, when it was known back then, started. So yeah, myself and Mel, my partner, we run the bar there at the Sandylands Club, and look after the affiliated clubs that are there, and also the facilities hire. So yes, I'll start at 4 o'clock in the morning on my kind of 9 to 5 day job, but there are times when I'm needed to then work there. And as we know, bars 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night finish. So Yeah. Sometimes I dread those days because sleep for me is so key. If I'm not getting 7-8 hours, it's you don't want to be around me.
Do you enjoy that busy lifestyle? Is it something that actually kind of works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it. And I know there are some people that have heard me kind of moan and complain. Ultimately, I think for me, it I do enjoy it. I enjoy being around people. I enjoy being active, and when I say active, not just in fitness but in all areas of my life. I don't like to just sit down and be still. As I said earlier, it doesn't sit comfortably with me. I'm not very good by myself. So yeah, being actively involved as much as I can in my life, in all areas of my life, family, business, training, is pretty crucial for me to kind of stay sane.
Yeah. And obviously you say of your partner Mel, and you got 3 children as well, alongside 2 businesses. How do you manage that time so you actually get time for yourself, but also actually spend time with the family away from the business and the chaos?
I think crucially for me, I make sure that it is all as one. So whether it be the business, family, training, I try and that's my life. I don't separate it. I don't turn up for work and then that's it. Work, don't talk about it again. I don't go home and be a father, and then when I'm at work, don't talk about it again. Likewise with the training. I try and kind of encompass all of it. So it works quite well because, if I'm training, the children know I'm training. If I'm at work, then, you guys here tend to know I'm at work, or vice versa. That I think everything has to be as one. I think people go wrong when they start separating everything. And I've tried it in the past and it doesn't work for me. I think everything needs to be kind of, as I said, brought as one. So that's how I deal with it. It's allowing everything to flow into one or the other. So as I said, like today, children, school, work, training, children, work, everything has to kind of flow. So yeah.
So how do you fit a training regime in around that? Obviously, I know you make time for it, like you say, you make it as one, but I guess it'd be very easy for it to not be a priority, and you could skip that part and you can go and do other things or prioritize other things. So why do you make it a priority? How do you make training a priority?
So why I make it a priority is, as I said, like without training, I'm not comfortable within myself. I need to have that accountability, and that goes on to my next point, is that if I'm talking about it and I encompass it as one, certainly with my children as a prime example, a lot of people struggle sometimes to fit in work, training, and also family life. I think because I share it openly with them and explain to them what it is I'm doing, why I'm doing it, it holds me accountable to them. So, when I say, I'm not feeling training, they'll be like, go, because that's what you do. Go to training. And that could be hockey, that could be, small group sessions here. It could be anything, any form of training. I just try and make sure that they're aware of it, as an example, certainly with the children, because that, for me, in my life, is one of the top priorities.
And are the kids quite sporty?
Yes, and I think that helps, certainly. Certainly, all of them have started hockey. I play hockey. A lot of people know that already, especially when I come in here injured. A lot of people know that already. As I said, they started at a young age. They were involved with hockey, so it works well because it means that I can actively be involved in their sport as well as them being involved in my sport. So yeah, they've always been active, which is great. I mean, they are fantastic. But yeah, it's great that they feel that they can, go to a hockey session, or middle daughter's doing trampolining, youngest has just started athletics, all of these different things. So definitely.
So obviously we know that hockey's been a big part of your life. When did you actually start playing hockey?
4 years old.
Early doors, okay.
Yeah, 4 years old. I was invited to what was then Beckenham Hockey Club by my cousin, and we played on grass for a good couple of years. And then from that point on, it just stuck. It just stuck, and I've always played hockey, give or take a couple of years in my late teens. I've always been active in hockey. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but yeah, always active.
Do you feel like being in in and around that environment from a really young age, it has been a good thing as well. Like the people that you've met, the kind of the camaraderie and stuff from team sports. I know from obviously rugby. Do you feel like it's a good place was it a good place for you? And do you think it's a really good place, an environment for kind of kids to grow up?
Absolutely. I would recommend it to any parent. Sport, certainly with children, is a release for all that built up energy that they have. But it also gives them the tools and experience to be able to socialize with fellow peers, and learn the meaning behind commitment. The idea that they're joined up as a team, the team sports, wanting to win and succeed, that comes quite a lot in hockey, although for me personally in our team maybe not so much at the moment, but yeah.
And was it hockey that kind of initially got you into training? Like, what's your gym kind of background when it comes to training?
Before I met Luke at Sandylands, I had 1 or 2 experiences with the gym. Mm-hmm. I think the experiences I did have were negative, and so I didn't then follow that up. So I was that person that thought, the best thing for me to do at that particular moment in my life is to join a gym, to go in, to do some PT sessions, maybe, some cardio, bit of running machine, bike, but my experiences were negative, and so I didn't go back to it. So I think I must have been 18 years old, 18, 19. But other than that, any sort of real training or consistency, other than the hockey, didn't come until about 2017.
And what made it a negative experience for you being in that environment?
So I'm a recovering drug addict. And at that particular moment in my life, I was in active addiction. So I thought that by going to the gym would help me. It would get me away from the demons that I was dealing with at that particular moment. And it didn't. It didn't help at all. In fact, it probably made it worse, because when I would miss a session or didn't turn up, I'd just feel worse about myself. I thought it would help with my self-worth. It didn't. It had an opposite effect, because I wasn't in the right place mentally. So I think that's where, at that particular moment in my life, I just turned my back on it. I thought, no, I'm not doing this, because I didn't feel comfortable. And actually, I've learned it wasn't the gym that was the problem. It was me. I wasn't ready for that particular moment in my life. I was still, as I say, battling with active addiction. So had to sort that out before I could even think about going back to a gym or being actively involved in any sort of training.
So what happened in that window kind of between that experience and then finding Luke and that gym in 2017?
So obviously I managed to get clean in 2008, so 15 years ago now, so quite a long time, and there's quite a big gap between 2008 and 2017. But I had children quite young, so that took up a lot of time, like early 20s. But also I spent a long time working on myself, so my time was spent elsewhere. So I actually didn't have the time to focus on any sort of gym or training or anything like that, because for me at that particular moment in my life, I needed to stay alive. And so for 5-6 years, I worked heavily on my recovery and following some steps that allowed me to get clean, stay clean, and then live a normal life. So it probably took me that amount of time before I realized, okay, now I'm ready to take the step and move on with my life. So yeah, it took many years. It was really difficult.
And what felt different when having that conversation with Luke and you're looking at Addiscombe Fitness and he's saying, come, like, join? What was different? What felt different about Addiscombe Fitness that kind of was like, okay, this actually could be the time and the place for me?
So I think at that particular moment, I realised that I needed some structure, and I needed accountability. I'd spent years, obviously, working on myself, and life was good, much better. Children, business was good, but I hadn't really worked too much on, my self-worth, as it were. I realised that when I had that chat with Luke, I could, really make a go of this. I could change how I feel and how I perceive myself in that mirror. And it was really strange, actually, like the first conversation with Luke. I don't think it was even at the gym. I think it was in his kitchen. And I was there it was meant to be, because I was there for a completely different reason, and met Luke, and then realised, obviously, that there was some connections there because he was in the same year as my sister at school, and didn't even realise. And so I thought, oh, well, this is meant to be. And from that point on, I realised, actually, I'm going to do this. And what was fantastic right at the beginning, I did a lot of one-to-one and we did some spin classes and all that, but I was held accountable all the time. I'd always get a phone call or a message, or where are you? What are you doing? And I'd never had that before, because in my life, certainly up to that point, I had nobody really to be held accountable to. Mm-hmm. I started running the businesses quite young. I got clean myself. My parents, they weren't actively involved with my life at that particular moment. So I had no real structure, nobody holding me accountable. So yeah, Luke kind of filled in there, kind of stepped in.
So between 2008 and 2017, I remember you saying to me before that part of that recovery was actually being more selfless, right? And actually helping other people quite a lot, and spending a lot of your time and energy to help others. Mm-hmm. So that 2017 comes around and Addiscombe Fitness rolls around, and you wanted to spend that time on working on you and your self-worth. Was that just a way of you then going, almost flipping the tables again and going, okay, this is now my time. I've done this long stint of really trying to help others, and that's something I know you continue to do, but it was time for me to claw something back a bit more.
Yeah, but you mentioned it just then. Like, I think, excuse me, I think, yes, I wanted to do that. And yes, I wanted to work on me, but I still wanted to use all those tools that I'd picked up that allowed me to be the person I was. So, for people that know me, certainly in here, I'll always try and help others to some degree, whether it be, trying to push them to lift heavier, or, talking about what goals and aspirations they have within the gym. Like, when I start to get to know somebody, I still do that. So with starting at T2 Fit, yes, it allowed me to look at myself, and yes, I was ready at that particular moment to work on my self-worth and my appearance and my general health and fitness, but it also was an environment that allowed me to still be selfless and help others. So it worked quite nicely in my life. It married up quite well.
So when you first started trying to manage your lifestyle with kind of a health and fitness kind of model in there as well, was there any initial kind of teething issues in terms of how you managed your week? Because, like you say, you still had a young family at that point. You took the business on very, very young. So a lot of the challenges that you kind of have now, but now you kind of know how to manage that. When you initially had to start fitting the fitness in and get into sessions and that accountability, was it tough initially? Did it feel just really easy and smooth transition? Like, what kind of things needed to happen and change?
I needed to structure my life much better. I think certainly in the first year or two, I was one of those that would drop out of a session or a class and then rebook something else, or drop out. And I can still occasionally do it now. So if you ever see notifications that I've rebooked onto something, it's because something's going on in my life. But I was very bad at that structure and consistency. I was doing it, of course. I was turning up 2-3 times a week and doing the different classes, which at the time that's what they were called. But I just, I wasn't very good at managing that time very well. And the one thing that I do now, and what works really great at T2 is, booking onto a session and then it dropping into my calendar. I can use that to my advantage. Before, I never really had that. So structure is really important, and being consistent with that structure. So I know Tuesday and Thursday, without fail, I'm training, and I make sure everybody in my life knows that that's what I'm doing. That will change very soon as I start to embark on like the next kind of part of my journey in fitness. But at the moment, that's what I do. So, and everybody knows it.
So when I think back to 2017 for you, then obviously the motivation for you being there is very clear. But what now keeps you turning up? What keeps you coming back to sessions when you still have that busy lifestyle? Is it just ingrained, or is there, what is your why now? Because like I say, back then it makes sense. You were making that part of your recovery, and it was something that very clearly you wanted to do and wanted to change. But what keeps you coming back now?
I think I want to inspire. Life was very dark for many years, and I didn't really have a purpose. There was no purpose in my life. I just got up, did what I did, and then went to sleep. That's all. That was it. Now, what keeps me turning up is a purpose, like feeling I can help someone or something. As I say, like I think coming from a place of addiction and then moving into an environment where people look at you and think, oh, you know, you must be doing some good things, and ask questions. It gives me a purpose in life. It allows me to want to turn up every single week, give advice where I can. You know, I haven't got the experience of you or Cass or JT or anything like that, but we all have experience somewhere down the line. And I think that I need to always be mindful of that. We all have our own experiences, and we can all share those experiences, and to some degree make a difference in somebody else's life. Even if it is quite small, you can still make a difference. So that's my main purpose, and inspiration for others within, you know, the gym environment, but also most importantly, my children. I think, you know, if they haven't got something to look up to, then I worry that they might take the same path that I did. And that's not to say that they wouldn't. I have no control over that whatsoever. But if I can give them a path to go down, whether they choose that or not is up to them. But if I can give them a positive, healthy path to go down, then that keeps me coming back, definitely.
So what then was the motivation behind the transformation that you took this year? Because, you know, it's one thing to manage that lifestyle with turning up to the gym and turning up to hockey a couple of times a week, but to then embark on like a TBT and delve a little bit deeper, working alongside Cass, what really triggered that next level kind of push?
I think, so my eldest is his second year of A levels, and I think for me personally, I wanted to show him that if you work hard enough at something, you can achieve great things, and that works in all areas of life. But for me personally, at that particular moment, I could see, and my daughter as well, she just started secondary school. I needed something I needed to show them that if you work hard enough at something and you stick to some simple fundamentals and you follow a plan, you can achieve something. And for me, that, you know, TBT, mind blowing. Like if you just do this will happen. And it did. You know, I was able to lose a considerable amount of weight. I was able to change my body composition, how I felt about myself. And they were, you know, actively involved in that. And I say actively involved. They saw me weighing out my food every single night, like asking questions about why are you doing this? What's this for? So they were involved in that journey, and they could see that by staying consistent and by doing that, they, you know, I could achieve something. And I felt like I wanted to do something. And at that particular moment, that's what it's the only thing I could think of. I wanted to show my children that if you work hard enough at something, you can achieve great things.
And what was the time frame of that transformation, and kind of what was the end result in the end, like weight loss wise and that kind of stuff?
So we started, I think it was April. The first round of TBC was April. It was supposed to be for 12 weeks, but I had a clear goal in my head. I was going on holiday mid-August. So I think it went into 16 weeks. And I dropped, I think it was 12 kilos, but it wasn't that I dropped 12 kilos in size, because I managed to maintain a lot of muscle mass, which was fantastic. So I was 12 kilos down, but 12 kilos down in unnecessary weight, shall we say. I could still...
I know that feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're training at the moment, aren't you? Or have been training, so you've got some big events coming up. How do you find physically...
It's a game changer. So I'm a little bit behind you. I'm only 10 kg down versus the 12. But when you lose unnecessary weight and you change, then the numbers on the scale change, but your mindset change, I think, is a big thing for me. Like, I was okay carrying a bit of extra weight around. I enjoy a bit of beverage every now and then and a bit of food. But and unfortunately sitting down and trying to learn the guitar doesn't really help calorie expenditure. But it does, you can still have those things with a different mindset and be 10 kg down. For me, it's very much about having a goal, and High Rocks is a big goal, and the added pressure of knowing that if I don't pull my finger out, I've also got someone else in a pair that's going to rely on me is a big thing for me. And I think it comes back to, as you mentioned very briefly earlier, the whole team thing of the rugby, and I work really well alongside people, even if it is just one other person. So that accountability for me there is huge. But I think definitely the mindset is massive.
Definitely. I think that one person you're talking about, Luke, as well, he certainly holds you accountable. Sub 60 minutes?
That is on the cards. It's on the cards. But you know what? When I first heard him say it, and I think I've mentioned on here before, when I first heard him say it, I was like, yeah, all right, mate, like, let's take a chill for a minute, because he is ultra competitive. But it's been great. It's been a blessing, really, to have a stretch goal like that, something that almost feels out of reach, but actually has been super positive to work towards, and has got me where I am right now, 10 kg down. So we'll find out this Saturday, but we'll see.
I don't know what it is about Luke. He did the same thing to me. So we were having conversations 2021 about the idea of doing a triathlon, and I was like, I might do an Olympic one, might do a half Iron. He said, why don't you do an Ironman? I was like, what do you mean? Why? That's stupid. Why? How could I possibly do an Ironman? Do a full Ironman. If you're going to do it properly. And I think seeing your journey, certainly with the High Rocks training, that just reminds me of that period of like my life and training. Just why can't you? Why can't you achieve a sub 60 minute High Rocks? Why can't you complete a full Ironman? And there's nothing really stopping us.
Well, I know, again, speaking to Luke on a number of occasions, during lockdown, he developed this very much of a why not mentality. I think the catalyst was him running a marathon on no training whatsoever, something that you almost know a lot about very recently. But it was like could I run a marathon tomorrow? Why not? And I think the thing with Luke is he does lead from the front, and he leads by example. So if he's going to set something out, and he says to you about doing an Ironman or whatever, like he might not do an Ironman, but he'd be doing something else that is the same kind of craziness. He'd be there at 4:30 in the morning training or whatever. But I think it also ties back into what you were saying earlier. It's leading by example, and it's leading from the front, whether that be for other members in here or for your kids. Having kind of putting yourself out there as that person is not only very beneficial for you, but for the people around you, right?
Definitely. But it can be quite a scary place to be, actually. Mm-hmm. I know I don't know about anybody else, but for me in that situation, it's uncomfortable, and there's a lot of fear around that. But the opposite to fear is faith, and the faith and the understanding that, yes, you can do this. And as you say, why not? Why not embark on ultra marathons or Ironman or, High Rocks sub 60? Like, why not? So yes, for me, a lot of fear comes up, a lot of anxiety, but you have to look like, why can't we do these things? I'm excited to see your High Rocks sub 60, by the way. That'd be good. Look at your face. Just like, there's the fear right there. Just like,
do you know what it is? I'm at that point now where I know we've put so much hard work in. Whether it's sub 60 or whatever it is on the day, I'm actually happy with it. Maybe Luke wouldn't be if it was like just over, but I'm happy with it because I know the work that's gone into it, and we've prepped really, really well. So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with it because I tell you what, whatever happens on Saturday, it's going to be a damn sight better than it would have been where I started.
Yeah, for sure.
So having that is great. Now, you mentioned something there about being uncomfortable, and I know that you've told me before about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, whether it be training or whatever, intentionally. Why is that? Because I agree. I think being in uncomfortable situations intentionally is something that we should be doing more often. I think it builds a lot of resilience and there's a number of benefits to it. But why is that a benefit for you?
You mean like doing T2 Fit Talks podcast?
I know, right? Yeah. This is a big one for me. Like as I said on the podcast before, that it is an uncomfortable situation that I put myself in intentionally, but there are benefits to it. So putting yourself through a transformation, putting yourself into a marathon with little prep, or putting yourself into what you're going to be embarking on 2024. They're not just normal things. Like, but why go that extra layer other than just for, I guess, the accountability or to be that person that people can chase out in front? Like, why do you want to be intentionally uncomfortable?
So for years, I smashed myself to pieces with drugs. I intentionally put myself in uncomfortable places, dangerous places, physically, mentally, spiritually. Certainly mentally, it put me in some really bad places. On the flip side of that, if I put myself intentionally into uncomfortable situations, now it can only lead to good. So for my mental well-being, I need to do things that are outside of my comfort zone. I can't just plateau and sit in a normal situation. I have to push myself and strive to be better. And the only way I can do that is by being uncomfortable and vulnerable at the same time. I think vulnerability is such an important part of life. So many people shy away from that vulnerability, whether it be vulnerable in the gym, trying to push to do something you don't necessarily think you can do and then achieving, taking on different, Ironman experiences or marathons or whatever. Or for me, sometimes it can come right back down to turning up to an event for one of my children at the school because I'm going to be put in a situation where I feel uncomfortable. Without that, I can't grow. I can't grow in all areas of my life. I can't be a better person if I don't put myself into uncomfortable situations. So for my mental well-being, I have to do it. I have to push myself to be put in those uncomfortable situations. And what I really love about yourself and Luke and Cass and other people within T2 is you are constantly pushing me into uncomfortable situations. Asking me to do this, saying, go and do an Ironman, marathons. It didn't start like that. It started much smaller. I remember Luke saying, I think it was back in 2018, let's go and do a 10K. Let's go and do the London 10K, for example. I was like, a 10K, with Luke of all people, yeah. But push you into an uncomfortable situation and you grow. And then look where that's taken me. I'm able to now go and do marathons. I'm able to turn up in the pouring rain in the middle of Bolton and embark on an Ironman. It's just crazy where that journey takes you. But it all started by being pushed into an uncomfortable situation. So it opens up doors. It opens up doors, allows me to grow, makes me vulnerable, and I can be a better person for it.
You said something to me very recently, actually, which I thought was massive, and it was being intentionally uncomfortable and vulnerable actually gives you clarity and a sense of control, which normally doesn't really go together, because when you think about being in uncomfortable situations and being vulnerable, you feel out of control. But actually for you, that's a little bit different. You feel like it gives you control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't wish drug addiction on anybody, but it's made me the person I am today. And so by intentionally putting myself into those uncomfortable situations, I feel through past experiences, it allows me to control my life a little bit better. And so having that sense of control, even if it comes right back to eating 1,600 calories a day, it's not a particularly nice place to be. You're feeling exhausted, you're tired, you're hungry, but it gives you that control. I feel like I can control that. I can sit down, I can measure out my foods, etc. And when I was in active addiction, other than the simple process of, waking up and going to sleep, I didn't really have any control. There was no control in that whatsoever. So for me, it's funny you should say, I was thinking about that and I didn't even, I completely forgot I think that's the beauty of conversation, is that it reminds me of certain situations, certain things that are beneficial to me. We can all go about our lives just kind of plodding along, bouncing from point to point, and not really thinking about it. Not really thinking about why. That's also why I love the podcast as well, because there's so many why questions. It gets you thinking about what's going on. Why do we do this? Why do you do that? So yeah, I think actually, I feel a sense of control, certainly.
Well, I have another why question for you.
2024,
big year.
Yes.
Why? And explain what it is.
So as of probably the 1st of December, I'm going to embark on another 10, 11 months of Ironman training to my sins. Now, just to give you an idea, at the moment, obviously, I'll be training twice a week, kind of small group. Hockey season's on at the moment, so there's some cardio there, some endurance to some degree. But when I start the Ironman training, it will be, yes, small group strength training, but I'd also 6 cardio stroke endurance sessions on top of that as well. And I think why I want to be an inspiration to my children. I don't think I quite succeeded, or felt internally that I didn't succeed in 2022. We've spoken about it before, but I did everything I could have possibly done right to some degree, and then failed through a mechanical issue on my bike. So I've got new wheels, so nice. That's a good start. Yeah. I want to be an inspiration to my children. I want to show them that when you get knocked down, you can get back up again, and you can still go and succeed and do all those things you want to do. My daughter had a prime experience recently. She was asked to go to a county hockey trial. She got through to the final stage and then was given a no. And you could see it knocked her back. It knocked her back massively. But you just have to, don't worry about it. Try again. Do it again. See what happens. Ride that journey, because that's all we're doing. For me, my life, it's just one big journey of ups and downs, lefts and rights. And there are going to be great times, but there are also going to be some really bad times. So for me, next year, I just feel like for a sense of achievement and completion. And when I finished the 2022, or when I got to the final stage of 2022 Ironman, I said I would never do it again. And it took me a year and a half before I thought, actually, I need to do this. I think it's just a completion, a tick, and certainly a message to my children and anybody else who's interested, really, that even if you do get knocked back, you can pick yourself up and go again. Because in life, that's a given. We do get knocked down. Things are not always great. My life is one massive up and down, but you just pick yourself up and try again.
Also, things aren't fair. You can put all that work in. Like you say, you get mechanical fault on the bike. It just had nothing to do with being your fault at all. And unfortunately puts that in jeopardy. Yeah. I'm also going to highlight the fact that you've upgraded the destination this time as well a little bit, which I don't blame you at all. Apologies for anyone from Bolton. But you've gone from Bolton to Barcelona, I believe, now as well.
Yes. I'm going to be honest with you though, JT, that wasn't the destination. It's flat. So,
do you know what? It's good enough. It's good enough.
Bolton was so hilly, like unbelievably hilly. I think it was one of the highest amount of people who didn't get to move on out of transition 2 and into the run section, because there were so many failed bikes, mechanics, all of that kind of stuff. It was horrendous. Potholes, hills. I know many people that completed it, and I take my hats off to them. But it was one of the toughest courses, certainly, that I've heard of. I know there were lots of others out there all around the world, but it was particularly difficult. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I need to give myself my best chance of completing it. So other than the swim is in the sea, which I'm not looking forward to, salt water and tides, waves, all of that kind of stuff. The rest of it's flat, and also it'll be warm, so that would be quite nice.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Yeah, it should be fine. Now, are you going to put a time on it?
A time?
Yeah, like
to complete it.
A completion.
You mean like a sub 60 high rocks?
I mean, if you get sub 60 in there for sure, that'd be pretty impressive. But Are you going to put it out there at a time that you're going to look into kind of target yourself on?
I would love to be able to complete the Barcelona Ironman in 12, 13 hours. For me, 12 hours is a number that is achievable, certainly on a flat course. As I said, the bike and the run, completely flat. So if I can aim for a 12, 13 hours, I'd be really, really happy with myself. So yeah, you're going to hold me to that now, aren't you?
Absolutely.
It's on
camera, mate.
Yeah.
Everyone from Bolton will be writing in. So I wanted to kind of round this off with some advice from you. So if anyone listening to this can resonate with your journey and your story in any way, shape or form when they're looking to, whether it be get into a health and fitness journey or whatever it is, manage time better, what would your biggest bits of advice be for someone?
So we spoke about this briefly, actually, but I think there's 4 main areas that I have to look at if I'm going to do anything, and that's structure, accountability, consistency, and ownership. So you can have an entire podcast on all those 4 points, but for me, like, I think certainly from my life experience, I need to have structure. Things we've spoken about today, I need to have structure. Without that, I'm left to my own devices, and in my experience, that doesn't work very well. Accountability, I need to have someone checking up on me. I need to have someone giving me challenges like a 12, 13 hour Ironman or, whatever that may be. Just like you're experiencing with a High Rock 60. So I need structure, accountability, consistency. There's no point doing anything if you're not consistent. I think, turning up minimum for me twice a week to T2 is a given, unless I'm injured. and sometimes I still turn up injured and barely do much, but I'm still here. Consistency is important. I went through a year or 2 at the beginning of not being particularly consistent and didn't get much results. And again, I look at that in all areas of my life. It's really hard to achieve and get results in anything, whether it be being a good father, succeeding in the business, getting stronger, fitter. None of that happens unless you're consistent. And then finally, at the ownership, we spoke about the ownership and understanding that it's up to me to do this. I can't rely on anybody else. I have to own it. I am the one who has to put all those things in place. And even when I do get knocked down, I still have to be responsible. I think those 4 things, which again, it's been a gradual process. I didn't have those in my head when I first started training. I thought, okay, I'm going to get in, as we spoke earlier. Now it's certainly those 4 things. So if there's any advice that I could give to anybody, is look at the structure of your life. Are you accountable? Are you consistent? And do you own everything you do?
Love that. Boom. Done. Thank you, mate. I massively appreciate your time and thank you for sharing that journey with us. Super, super powerful. So anyone listening who can resonate with that in any way, shape or form, they are your 4 things to go away and start to implement. Small things frequently, be consistent and have that ownership. That is episode 10 in the books, ladies and gents. We look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Like, subscribe. We'll see you soon.